Hello and welcome to Andy
and Monty,
the podcast. Where we fill your brain and hearts with joy and random information.
And laughter and love and sometimes curiosity, perhaps, dare I say.
I would dare say that we make you pretty curious.
Right. I feel like we invoke lots of different energies and our lovely audience.
Precarious. Precarious.
Precarious. Oh, I don't know about precarious.
Promiscuous.
Oh. So, we are back. We have been kind of all over the place because Andrew has been traveling everywhere. He has been MIA. But he's finally back for a second because he leaves again tomorrow out of town.
I'm here for a brief moment in time.
So he was so kind enough to offer his time to you, the lovely viewers.
Of course.
To this podcast. Because what is Maudie and Andy, after all, without one half of that?
Exactly. But no matter what, we are going to have to figure out a way to record this. Because there is the potential reality where you and I are not going to be together. So
yeah, so we
no matter what,
talked about, I think that we talked about that last episode, that potentially Andrew's going to be moving somewhere else, then I'm moving. We're both moving to Europe, so we'll at least be in the same time zone, which is going to be nice. But this podcast may eventually be coming to you via Zoom or some other form, unless you want to blow us up now, so that we can buy a penthouse in a studio and we won't have to separate. So,
there we go.
You know what? I think that's on you guys.
Honestly.
So, spread the word like wildfire if you want to keep us together in one room. As you should. But, yeah, very exciting episode today. We have kind of an interesting topic we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I guess, we were wanting to discuss this in the light of all of the recent things that have kind of been talked about lately with the whole Diddy situation and also the whole Nickelodeon expose documentary.
That is coming, or came out.
Right, that came out and is just like making huge waves right now as people are watching and finding out about this. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we just kind of wanted to discuss like our thoughts on that, but also kind of our experience in relation to that as far as like, you know, ever since Andrew and I were little, we always wanted to get in the entertainment industry. We always were very creative people. We both had like very ambitious goals even as children. And so we kind of want to discuss like our desires when we were young to be child stars and, you know, sort of maybe like the implications of the fact that we were spared from maybe some less than desirable experiences as a result of that. So I guess I feel like to start, maybe we can give you guys kind of like a very brief recap about kind of what's going on right now with these topics if you haven't heard about it or seen this documentary. So, as far as Diddy is concerned, P. Diddy, Puff Daddly. Ew. Wasn't that his name?
Really?
Yeah, it was Puff Daddy before it was Diddy.
God, that is
before it was P. Diddy, it was like Puff Daddy.
That's the biggest red flag.
I know, right? That's so icky.
That name is just... Wow.
I actually saw somebody say that on TikTok. They were like, that should have been the first sign.
Even P. Diddy sounds a little...
Well, yeah, exactly. Even that sounds, like, ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. Or, you know, I mean, you never know, but it's, like, it makes sense now. For sure, it checks out now. But, yeah, so he's going through it right now. Because first of all, Diddy has been served with a series of lawsuits that have some extremely hefty allegations attached to them, including SA, you know, like a certain type of abuse, shall I say, against a wide variety of people. And also he is being accused of like sex trafficking and having underage people at, you know, certain parties and literally, I mean, honestly, the accusations against him range from everything from that to literal murder. So, I mean, and this goes back like decades. Like, it's crazy how many people are coming out of the woodworks.
How old is P. Diddy?
I mean, I would assume he's probably in his 50s because I think he's around the same age as like Jay-Z. They kind of came up together because a lot of people are saying like he's next. His house of cards is going to start falling now too. And all the people around him as well. you know, like not just Jay-Z, but all those people. But one of the big allegations that I have heard for years about Diddy, because I feel like information kind of slowly trickled out about this over the years, even though there wasn't necessarily like a big, maybe shall I say mainstream, like knowing of it, is that people for years have been accusing him of like grooming, and allegedly again assaulting a lot of like young up and coming artists.
Isn't Cassie the first one that really brought P Diddy to the to the front, like, you know, really made people aware of what was going on?
Okay.
Wasn't that like the first major case?
That was probably
that
the
was
first
public.
That was the first really major public thing. But like I said, I mean, he was involved in his first like murder scandal literally in the 90s. There's like this. He used to date J-Lo at that time, and there's like this famous night that they had together that was like described as like her night in hell because of like this horrible thing that they had to like go through, where people were shot. And this, again, it's like multiple instances of this happening, right? So there's been like, you know, discussions of this for years. It's just that I feel like, unfortunately, we didn't really exist in a climate where people cared enough about that. You know what I mean? Like, about grooming or assaults or, you know, problematic power dynamics in the way that people do now. Like, people, you know, we're post-Me Too era, you know, we're in an age where people feel comfortable, you know, actually speaking out, because this guy has been widely described as like basically untouchable for, like I said, decades, you know, and he's built $1 billion empire upon that. So you can imagine that it's not exactly easy to speak out against him. You know, I mean, literally, like, some of the people that are listed in this most recent lawsuit are like, you know, the president of Universal Music Group, like huge music executives. So it's like, you can imagine.
How does that? I obviously, I mean, you know, I guess my pessimistic side is like, how could this surprise anybody? You know.
Well, obviously, the thing is, a lot of people are not aware this kind of stuff goes on. Like, people, you know, they just see the exterior. They see the shining outside. They see
That's true.
The, you know, whatever.
The finished product.
They see what he wants them to see.
Yeah,
exactly. They just see the success and they think, oh, good. Success equals good. Rich equals good, right? You know? But yeah, there's been allegations for literally years. His ex-wife and his baby mama mysteriously died. And there was so much discussion about that even at the time, because it was super sketchy. There was really weird circumstances around it, and there was a lot of evidence that it, like, he could potentially have played a hand in that.
This is too much.
And yeah, so the biggest thing I think that came out recently was that, yeah, Cassie, who, if you guys don't know who she is, she's a music artist.
It's you and me now.
Me and you.
Oh, yeah.
That's her big song.
It's you and me.
I just said it's me and you.
Oh, it's me and you.
Yeah, there you go. You're just saying
I've been waiting. Think I wanna make a move.
Yeah, so that's her
every
song.
Time every line.
Okay. So she dated Diddy for a while, and
dated Diddy.
Yeah, so she came out with like a huge
Poor Chica.
Well, she sued him and ended up settling for like $30 million, I think. So that, because, you know, of course he doesn't want these things to go to court. But now I don't think he's going to have a choice, because it's just getting worse and it's unraveling for him. But yeah, she basically alleged all sorts of things. She alleged that he would record things. That's a big thing I've heard for years, is that he has cameras in like every room of his house.
People that secretly record other people are like, I think, some of the most dangerous and like creepy people in the world.
And that's exactly why a lot of people allege that he has been able to build so much power, is that he purposefully creates environments in which people are going to be caught in compromising positions. And he invites, like, you know, most powerful people in whatever sector he needs. And, you know, there's abuse going on, there's illegal things going on, there's all sorts of, you know, bad things happening, and then he has it all on film. So you can imagine that's not exactly bad blackmail.
It's you and me.
Right.
Now.
It's Diddy and the cameras, you know what I mean?
Shaking our head.
But yeah, so she alleged like some horrible things, and I think that she did kind of open the floodgates for more people to come out, because
she gave people confidence.
Yeah, now there is like just bombshell out. I mean, it would literally, you know, we could make a whole episode just about the allegations against him. And also his house just got raided by Homeland Security. And they took all of the cameras from his house. That's one of the things they took. They took all the footage from his house. So I'm like, well, there it goes. I will say that I would not be surprised if it ends up being like an Epstein type situation where it's like, you know, he's just a scapegoat and none of the other people involved actually get any flack for it.
I think so, that as well.
But
of course he's guilty, but I mean the people like that were in his inner circle and the people who are way higher than P. Diddy in the world, you know, it's like the things P. Diddy is doing, you know, don't even compare to what some of the richest people in the world are doing.
Well, I think it does compare.
Okay, it compares, but P. Diddy is enabled by the fact that this is even allowed. That
well, exactly, and that's exactly
this is
why.
Rich people culture,
yeah.
apparently.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's just rich people. I would say that it's like specifically this is Hollywood culture. And this is what is like accepted.
No, I think that it's rich people in general, because remember we read about how in Switzerland it's like the trafficking capital of the world or something?
Okay.
So I think it's just rich people. It's like
it's
you
not...
have so many resources that you get bored. You can put a little tiny camera in every corner of your house, so you do. You have parties every like weekend or every week, and all of these celebrities and young people are coming, so you take advantage of that. And
but
there's
there's you know, it's not enough to be rich though, because you're not going to have that kind of influence unless you have some kind of bigger power. Because that's why I say it's like it's not accurate enough to just say rich people. It's like elite. You have to have money and power. So in this case, we're talking about Hollywood power, right? Fame, influence in that way, because money is not going to get you those people going to your house.
Well, of course not, but maybe like paying people.
Well, yeah, but again, it's like all about who you know. That is the reason he's been able to get away with this for so long.
Black market type stuff.
And the fact that it's just like, again, like he's a public figure, and so it's like it's not as easy to just take down somebody who's a public figure and who knows people and who has influence. But I think obviously, yeah, this is happening, you know, in the political spectrums, happening in other spectrums, whatever. But I think that at the end of the day, it's like even like really rich like business people who are not like top of the chart, I feel like, you know, they're not necessarily invited to those parties. You know what I mean? It's like there's something else that is required, and again, I think it has to do with power and influence.
And there's a certain category of evil. And
if anything, I think that's actually the prerequisite. Is it's like if you have some kind of power and influence, I mean, they can get you the money. They don't need money. It's not about money. Money's part of it. Money's part of the power, but it's not about that. And that's exactly why you see these power dynamics being exploited, because that's all it's about is power and manipulation and influence. Which is exactly why we see it in Hollywood, where that's literally what Hollywood is, right? It's like power and manipulation.
Yeah, and also I think it's like a couple of different things about like Hollywood and American film and TV, you know, like over-sexualization, exploitation, like different stuff. There's extremes to everything, you know? I think it's like, you know, going back to what Marissa was saying earlier, like both of us wanted to do acting, and we want to continue pursuing a career in the industry and pursuing a career in entertainment. And I think that, you know, looking back, it's like we just we're 28 now, and I think that after seeing the allegations from P. Diddy, after seeing the things from Nickelodeon, after seeing all this stuff, I think that my main thought is like I'm actually grateful that I'm not going into this industry until I knew, you know, exactly what I was getting myself into.
I think that being said, we should also add in that another big thing that has been alleged that Diddy has done is groom, like, young children.
Artists.
Specifically, mostly, like, male artists. Because that's another open secret about Diddy is that he's, you know...
He's bi or gay
not
or something.
as... Yeah, exactly. Not as just, like, straight ego guys he would maybe like to pretend.
Well, of course.
It's just because he's a rapper, and that's the whole thing in rap, is that it's, like, they demonize, like, you know, not being, like...
fully straight.
The stereotype, like, yeah whatever. But that's something that's been alleged on a lot of a lot of rappers. But... You know, it's like, for example, Justin Bieber used to live with him. Usher used to live with him.
That is so weird.
It's like alleged that he's basically like groomed all of these and allegedly abused, right? Allegedly. multiple up and coming artists, right? And it's like Cassie's just one example.
Kesha.
I don't know about Kesha.
Is Kesha involved in this?
No, she did have an abuser, but that was another producer,
Oh.
as far as I know. But again, it's funny you should say that, right? Because it's like wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy.
It's like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
I'm waking up and I'm feeling like I want to check all my cameras and watch all of like my freaking young artists going to the restroom.
I'm waking up in the morning feeling like I want to be straight up evil.
I'm waking up in the morning and I'm wanting to join the cabal.
Right, exactly.
I'm waking up in the morning, I want to go to the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, right. So, anyway, so also the Nickelodeon thing, of course, very briefly. If you guys not heard about this, I'm sure a lot of you have, but there's this huge bombshell documentary that just dropped. It's on HBO, and it's discussing, like, a lot of the abuse and, like, sexual abuse that the kids in the early 2000s on a lot of Nickelodeon shows, Drake and Josh, Drake Bell was like famously went through a horrific abuse, but also like the Amanda Show, all of that, iCarly, Victorious, all those shows that were on at that time. Unfortunately, you know, there was producers and executives at Nickelodeon that just were absolutely vile people.
Dan Schneider, no?
Dan Schneider's one of them, but he was not even the worst.
Are you serious?
No, dude.
Okay,
No.
Just full disclosure, guys, I have not watched this because, and I told Marissa that to me, it's too sensitive a topic for me, and I just, like, need to mentally prepare before I watch this. Like, I've already heard all of the, like, main points. I've already heard a lot of, like, the, you know, the biggest stories that came out of these documentaries and out of this information that's been circulating just from, like, Twitter and TikTok and the internet in general. But yeah, it's like, this is just, it's really intense. It's so sad. Like, if you're a person who experienced anything like this, like, as a child, it really is something that's just like, why? Like, these people who were, like, our escape as kids, like, these people who were, like, the things that made us so happy and brought us so much joy, it's like, behind the scenes, they were going through, like, the most traumatic time of their life.
Well, and it's sad because it's like, I think that it's like, it is most for sure impactful to children because they're the most vulnerable, obviously. But I honestly think that it's not just children. I mean, like obviously the whole Me Too movement happened for a reason, and it happened because people were starting to expose, like, creepy people in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I feel like this is a huge problem in Hollywood. And any major, like, entertainment company has these people. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know, you know, this might seem cynical or whatever, but I truly believe at this point that almost all of the higher ups at these, like, huge production companies are not great people.
I'd say, like, half.
I mean,
I'd say, like, that there's half very good people that would never actually get involved in these things. And then there's the half that, you know, go from the extremes of, like, they're the people who run it, you know, like Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and all this stuff. And then there's the people who just participate, you know, and then there's the people who may dabble, you know, in the evil, and then there's the people who, like, very rarely get involved in the evil, but do it, like, for face, you know, or, like, maybe for, like, the social aspect of, like, being part of, like, this elite, creepy crew.
Well, yeah, but what's the difference between that and being evil? Like, I'm sorry, if you're pretending to do it, you are doing it. I'm like, I don't know.
No, that's what I'm just saying.
Maybe that's to help their conscience, but personally, if I'm at one of those parties, like, I am implicit in it.
No, yeah, that's exactly
it. Like,
I mean, the thing is
that
that
I feel like it's simply a choice, I think, and it's like even people who have been exposed to this and decided to turn away, they talk about it. It's like, I went to, like, you know, I was basically
Jeffrey Epstein's island,
I was exposed to this, like, with a friend, and my friend after this, like, blew up and had all the success, but I just was not going to do it. And it's just kind of like, I think it's literally like a moral choice for people of, like, are you going to get involved in some very, you know, negative, low vibrational energies that are going to literally affect you energetically as a conscious being? Or are you going to not do that and instead pursue something that's, you know, maybe not going to make you a global superstar, but it's just kind of like, honestly, I don't know. I think this is maybe another discussion, but for me, I'm like, I don't even want to be that famous. That seems like a miserable lifestyle to be constantly like
bombarded,
watched
24/7, yeah,
criticized and analyzed and never be able to be yourself and being told who you are 24/7 working 24/7, like, you know, you have no time for yourself.
You might as well be like a member of the royal family at that point.
I mean, it's just kind of like, damn, like, I don't know, that's why I'm like, I'm happy being like
moderately famous,
TikTok famous vibes, you know what I mean, where it's like I'm able to curate my own community, and I don't have to answer to those evil elites, and I don't have to ponder to them, and I don't have, or pander to them, and I don't have to even, you know, even have the choice of, well, I really want this record deal, so, you know what I mean, like, no. I've just realized, like, I'm not willing to put myself in that position, personally.
It's funny because I, like, you know, I'm gonna pursue the acting thing, and I'm, like, thinking to myself, I'm like, of course, yeah, like, I have a moral compass. Like, I'm never going to do something that is gonna make me feel like I'm betraying myself. But that's the thing, is that I'm 28, and I'm going into this now with like a master's degree and all this life experience and job experience and things like that, where it's like when you're such a young person and, you know, like you're like a teenager or something even younger than that, and you're involved in this industry, it's like that judgment is not there, you know, like this like foundation that we have now is just not there. And like even if they were raised right, even if like their parents warned them, even if like, you know, whatever it is, it's like you are a fucking child, you know, that's the bottom line. And that's like what is so freaking creepy about like the P. Diddy thing and about like the Drake and Josh thing and all of this stuff with Nickelodeon. And like even seeing the footage of like I remember this was like from years ago where like people were pointing out how creepy the Ariana Grande scenes were from
her
Victorious.
Scenes were some of the absolute worst.
And it was like this guy like fetishized this girl and made her do all these strange things. And then it was the same thing with the Amanda Show, that when you look back on the Amanda Show, a lot of the things that they had her doing, like involving her feet and involving like all these different like shots that they would shoot of her, I was just like, yeah, it's like when you're a child, like you do not understand.
Sorry.
Bless you. Like when you're a child, you just do not understand what's happening. You just don't get what's happening around you. You know?
I mean, I don't think that it's that you don't get it. It's just that, unfortunately, and this is in the documentary, most of their parents did not care.
That is so fucked up.
Also, you have to keep in mind that it's like these children are making so much money.
That their parents are happy that their kids are paying every single bill.
It's like they're the breadwinners for the family. There's an insane amount of pressure placed on these people. And then it's like, it's also messed up though, because it's like, for me, I think like, okay, if I know that the execs of Nickelodeon are absolutely like
creepy,
horrible, vile people, how could I in good faith do anything with Nickelodeon? Even if I'm not being like, you know, abused, right? Like if I'm not experiencing the abuse. If I know that this is something that they actively enable and have done for decades, it's just kind of like, I'm like, I don't know. It's like if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would do something with Nickelodeon, I would be like, yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly
right.
But
now, I'm just kind of like,
hell nah.
I don't fucking want that money. Yeah, okay, maybe I can buy some shit, but the energy attached to that money is like absolutely disgusting.
Even like I was thinking about like the slime thing at the Kids' Choice Awards and all that stuff. Yeah. Like I like, it's like, yeah, like of course, like if you know, I would totally be down to do that. But now I'm like, oh my god, like what? You know, I don't even want to be associated with this name. You're right.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's like another thing that we kind of learned, I guess, from the Diddy lawsuit is it's like how many people and how many executives from these huge corporate Universal Music Group is the biggest like record label in the world and has a bunch of smaller record labels under it.
They own so much.
Yeah, they literally basically own like 80% of the market. That's, don't quote me, that's not an accurate maybe number, but it's something like that. Like it's a huge monopoly.
Some grande amount.
Yes, and so it's just kind of like, damn, like, you know, I don't know. And then it's like, yeah, then you sign a contract and then they can use your likeness and your personality and your energy to further that agenda, even if, again, you're not directly being abused. It's just kind of like, damn, like, you know, I guess it's like, you know, they say selling out. I feel like this is like the modern question of selling out is it's like, yeah, it's obviously part of that is like accepting money from any corporation that does questionable things that you don't agree with, or that, you know, have maybe a moral compass that does not align with your own, or an agenda that does not align with your own. I think that there is, you know, something to be said about just maybe doing getting sponsored by somebody and then using that money to like do something good for yourself, you know, or for other people. But then it's another thing to do a project with a company, you know what I mean? That's like under their name. Like make a record under Universal Music Group, or make a movie with like you know, X, Y, or Z movie studio. You know what I mean? And then,
or with some director that has some really shady past.
Because at that point you're literally like an employee for them. Like you are part of the group. You know what I mean? You're not just like doing a one-off like.
It's just so hard. It's so hard. I think that this is a conversation where it's like, you know, you're like these people's dreams are in front of them, and they see that working with this person is going to be the thing that is going to open that door for them. It's just so hard.
Well,
it's so
I think it's also
such a
sad, because it's just like, the thing is too though is that what I think actually is, which is something that we kind of also I think started to realize early on, is that the dream that is sold is not the dream that is lived by these people. That's not their real life. Like the idea that you have of what their life is not what they are actually living. Like, you just think they're rich and famous, they're living the dream, they're so happy. And what you don't see is that they're, like, literally exhausted to the point that they can barely function. They have no autonomy over themselves or what they do. Or
what they can say.
Yeah, or even sometimes like creative projects that they take. Because guess what? You get an agent, you get a manager, they're taking 10-20%.
Yeah, they're like, I just want you doing as much as you can.
Exactly. So it's like, you could be doing projects that you don't agree with at all, or that you don't even like. And then you're spending 18 hours on set every day.
No,
you know what I mean?
You know, honestly,
like, and that's your life. Yeah.
You know what I think another reason why, because I at first I was pursuing being on SNL, and then it's funny because I had this theater teacher. She was like a tech director, and then her husband was also tech, and she told me she was offered a job as a full-time stage manager with SNL, and that she declined it. And she told me that she declined it because they basically live there. Yeah. And that they live in the NBC studio, that they live in the Rockefeller Center, that they literally live there, that some of them will like sleep there, have ramen for their only meal of the day. And it's like, yeah, sure, they may be getting paid like a good salary to do something creative, which is like obviously amazing. That's like,
compared to the normal salary, it's good salary, but also compared to the money that they're making off of them, it's nothing.
It's insane, yeah. And the stocks and everything involved in NBC.
That's, you know, recently, a lot of you probably heard there was like a huge actors and writers strike, and a big reason for that is that they have increasingly been. It's like, yeah, everyone thinks like actors make so much money, but the reality is most actors do not make enough money. They don't even make enough money to qualify for health insurance. They don't get paid royalties anymore. So it doesn't matter if your show is being shown 500 times, like, you know, like 500 times they're going to play the series, right? Like on reruns or whatever. You're not getting paid for any of that. You just get paid one check. They do not do residuals anymore, which is that was something that was like so helpful for actors in the past, is that, you know, if they did one successful show, they knew that they were going to be good for, like, ever. And now that's not the case at all. Like, it's just not the case. They will exploit you. They will give you the lowest possible deal they can. And, yeah, it's like, you know, of course, also, it's like, there's so many things that are expected of you as far as image and keeping up an image that it's like, you know, you have to spend a lot of money just to maintain that image. You know, it's like they say, it's like the richer you get, like, the more the higher your expenses go up. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like you're always just experiencing like purely benefits, you know?
Well, yeah, well, my point is that honestly, like, and at the time I was working at Apple, and I started realizing, like, obviously Apple is a good corporation to their employees, but Apple is not a good corporation to the planet, to the world, to Africa, to these African kids that are mining all of these precious metals. You know, like, it's like Apple is like, yeah, it's a questionable organization. And like, I like started realizing that working for them, where I just realized, okay, I am inevitably taking part in the system, and that I'm over here making like this much money, and then all the people who actually made the phone and who mined everything and blah blah blah, they're what are enabling me to make this much money and have the benefits that I have and all this stuff. And that's what started to really bother me. And people thought that I was crazy, you know, because I was like 19, 20, 21 when I worked there. And I remember the older people looking at me like, dude, it's a job, you know, like just be happy that it's a job. Be happy that you have health insurance. Be happy that you have this and that and blah, blah.
It's crazy because that's even something they talk about like on the Quiet on Set documentaries. That's like the writers, for example, like it was like he like hated women obviously because he's a horrible person, and so there was only like 2 female writers and he made them share a salary.
Oh
they had
my
to share
God.
a salary, and it's like again they talk about how it's like this was their dream. They thought like, how could I quit a job on a Nickelodeon show?
Yeah,
and it's horrible. These people are
that's exactly
not treated with respect, and that's the same thing with the vast majority of even like
any creative, any creative,
even actors.
Yeah,
too.
no. Well, that's the thing is that I've actually been listening to a few podcasts and things like this by, you know, like, and you as well, like interviews of actors and interviews of people who are involved in the creative process and all this stuff, and learning who you're going to work with, what jobs you're going to accept and deny, what your value is, what you're like, what you're going to accept, essentially, you know, what is your standard. And I feel like it's like moving forward with this information, and like, you know, with even more information than we already had before about, you know, this recent case with P. Diddy, and then also with the Nickelodeon crew. It's like, okay, you know, I am 1,000% cemented in my belief that it's like nothing within me is going to change about being willing to accept the fact that I am working for somebody where this money is coming from such a sketchy source or from such a sketchy person. Like, if I'm gonna have to do my research, who is producing this movie? Who is producing this TV show? You know, who are these people? Do I want to be associated with them? Because that's something that I think as a young actor or as a young singer or whatever, that you're not going to look this up.
Yeah.
And you're not going to dig deeper. And it's usually after you've already signed the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've signed away your soul to these people. And you've signed away all of your talent to these people for years, possibly years.
And I think that it's actually
and they realize in the process that this person is sketchy or that these people don't want the best for me or whatever. And by then it's like, it's too late. You know, like you've already been in, you're in the boat. You're there.
Because unfortunately the reality is, and this is something a lot of other people have reported on as well, is that it's like, you know, you get into the situation, you meet one wrong producer who tries to assault you, or, you know, you meet one bad person that has enough power, and they will literally, you know, blacklist you, and you won't be able to work again.
Derail you. Derail you completely.
But I think that, honestly, I actually think that the reason that this is even becoming public now, and the reason that this is gaining momentum, is that now you don't need to use those people to become famous or rich.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't need to use those people. You don't need those people to be creatives. You don't need those people to be successful artists anymore. Thanks to the internet, you can be your own boss. You can be your own executive, right? Like, you know, I was telling Andrew, like, I want to have my own studio. That is my dream. Like, I want to be able to produce my own things, you know, and create an environment for myself and for other people that is going to be you know, touched.
Nothing to do with all of that.
Exactly. Because I just feel like it's like, you don't need that anymore. And honestly, it's like, for example, like, you know, musicians, most independent artists are, you know, if they're going to be successful, they're better off not being signed. You're going to make more money.
I actually have read a lot. There's this one girl that I know, her name is Kennedy Ryan, I believe, on Instagram. And she always talks about this. She talks about how she's been offered record deals, she's been offered to be signed, and over, she just says no. And honestly, I feel like, wow, you know, like, as a person who was raised, like, extremely poor and humbly and blah, 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 and, like, you know, went into the acting thing from this, like, literally completely oblivious mentality, honestly. And then to go from, like, now 10 years later and I've like followed all these people and I've seen all these people, and same thing with like TikTok and stuff. It's like how many people talk about how like they are their own boss and that they've created their own career, and
Yeah. And how
things
you're
like
able
this.
to be a successful artist without needing any of those people.
Yeah, without having to
without
rely.
having to be exploited.
Yes.
Because it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's like artists just want to create. They don't want to be exploited. They don't want to deal with the red tape.
Yes.
They don't want to join the Illuminati. They don't want to do occult rituals. You know what I mean?
And
it's
honestly,
it's just about the art. And
you know what it reminds me of?
You can do that now and make money, be successful.
Yes.
Without the huge without the huge like corporations.
Yes, yes. It reminds me of, I think the last thing that I'll say is it reminds me of the Bill Cosby stories. Because all of these people, they all had something in common. All of these women, they all had something in common. Like most of them, where they would say, you know, how could I deny dinner with Bill Cosby?
Yeah, exactly.
Or how could I deny an opportunity to meet this guy that I saw as like my hero, or as somebody who was very inspirational to be like this person of color that was so famous in the TV and film industry, you know?
And the options were so much more limited then.
Yes, you had to make connections with people. Yeah, and now it's just like,
that's
exactly.
Why. It's
the
like,
internet
it's like
has
somebody like Diddy. People are like, I'm not gonna go to your house. I can post on TikTok and be better off. Yeah. Why would I go through you? You know what I mean? And I feel like people are realizing that it's like, hello.
And also, who cares if I'll never get a record deal with Universal or with P. Diddy or with any of these people?
And it's like you said, it's like you are literally selling your talent to them, and it's often for such a low price. Like, seriously, I mean, yes, they make millions, but you don't understand. Like, it's like, if you make $2 million off of, you know, let's just say, like, this movie, they're making $300 million.
No, yeah, I remember seeing things like that. That really bothered me.
You are not, like, yeah, of course, there's other people involved as well, but it's like, ultimately, the vast majority of the wealth and power that is coming from you and everyone else that's being exploited is going to a very small select group. And so it's like, yeah, it's at the point where people now are like, sorry, I think that I'll double dip. I think I'll be both.
No,
like,
and to
I think I'll be
off that,
my manager and my producer and just independently release my stuff and independently produce my stuff, and, you know, I don't need you. Because it's like, yeah, it's like, even like, you know, even with us, right? It's like building this podcast, like, we get to the point where we're able to completely make our, you know, everything we need to live off this podcast. It's like, you know, neither of us will be in the position, like, if we want to act, we can just do a play, even if it's not that great paying, or we can do, like, whatever
produce
we
our
want
own thing
without having to be like, oh, I need the best deals, like, I need to, like, you know what I mean?
Or sponsorships, like, me and Marissa will never be sponsored on this show, on this podcast, by somebody who we do not do extensive research on. There's no way.
Or a product that we would not use.
Yeah, we're never going to agree to something that is going to offer us a ton of money for the exchange of us being inauthentic and doing something that is low vibrational.
I feel like it's like, you know, I know you always make fun of me when I talk about astrology, but it's like, we are in Pluto's in Aquarius.
Pluto is
and
in Aquarius,
we are in the age of Aquarius right now, and it is the day of the normal person. It is the day of the everyday individual. That's why people are craving, like, realness and just, like, authenticity, because all of the fake shit that
it's getting old,
the Hollywood puts out, people are bored with it.
Yeah, it is boring.
It's not doing, like, what it's not, you know, people don't go to the movies anymore even, right? Like, it's like, yeah, people will still stream, and, you know, there's still certain things, but it's just kind of like, again, the environment that's, you know, behind the scenes is being exposed, and it's just like more and more people are waking up to the fact that it's just kind of like, damn, like, it's horrible. Like, it's a horrible environment for a lot of people, you know? And so I feel like, honestly, I think that we're gonna see the dynamics of the entertainment industry change and shift away from these huge production companies, you know what? And into more independent,
I think it's already
smaller,
I think it's already there. I honestly think it's already there. And I will say that, I mean, I don't mean to be morbid here, but I mean, they're out the door. Like, you
well,
know,
yeah, but
that
P.
this
Diddy's
generation
son got arrested too. That's the thing.
okay,
They
well,
got children,
it's
and
sad.
they're doing the
It's
same
sad.
thing to
Yeah,
them.
it's sad that they indoctrinated their kids into it, but it's like very few people, and I really do think that ultimately, like, our generation is just. I pray and I hope that our generation, millennials and Gen Z, are able to create a way safer space in the entertainment industry, and that together, you know, like you and me, one day we can look back at this podcast, you know, 10, 20 years from now. I was listening to a podcast interview with Tina Fey, and she was talking about how she's known Amy Poehler since like 1994 or 1992, okay? And I was like, oh my god, like I was like really putting that in perspective with myself, where I was like, damn, like she was already 20 years old when I was like not even born, you know? And I just like was thinking to myself, like, yeah, like obviously the entertainment industry has changed a lot in this time, you know? And like with us, with you and me, it's like we're already making these promises to ourselves at 28, you know?
It's like, you know,
and
when you think about it, 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have even been able to make this podcast. Without
sponsorship or something.
Studio.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't do anything without pandering to that. And I think that it's like, I'm so happy that these executives are being called out for the creeps and the, you know, criminals that they are.
And the robbers, they are robbing the actors. They're robbing the singers. They're, you know, I was gonna say real quick earlier. This is the last thing. TLC, the Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. The amount of money that they made off of this song, like, it is like despicable, the amount of money that these three artists made when they were the singers, the writers, the creatives, like, and literally the freaking music industry just sucked it all up.
And that's why I say it's just like they had a dream and they thought this is the dream, and then you realize after you signed the contract,
and it worked.
This isn't the dream I thought it was.
No, look. It worked because the whole world knows their song, and their song will live on forever in infamy as like one of the best songs of, like, you know, the early 2000s and like 90s era. But it doesn't change the fact that they literally robbed these girls. You know, like, I was like I was like amazed. I mean, the figures were insane, guys. Like, I'm talking like they walked away with like
I've seen that as well.
so little money,
like five figures or something.
Yeah, something ridiculous, like something absolutely ridiculous, and like that they still had to pay taxes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, like, the music industry let them do that. You know, the music industry let that happen. Like, they saw their accounting. Yeah, they saw their accounting, and their lawyers and everything saw what was going to happen, and they were like, yeah, sure, just give them $5,000. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that is so messed up. After I saw that, I was like, I never want to sign with the major music label, ever. I don't care if they can promise me that I'll have a #1 hit. And then you see, like, you know, I don't even really, I'm sorry, I know this is controversial, but I don't really even listen to Taylor Swift, you know, and like, I don't really follow her or really pay attention to her, but her story about Scooter Braun, right? And about like how he like literally bought her freaking, like, all of her like record rights, you know, and she had to make like a whole new album where it's like Taylor's version, and it's like, that is just ridiculous. You know, like, freaking music industry is just insanity.
Because it's like,
it's all about money. That's all it's about.
Exactly.
They don't care about your artistry. They don't care about self-expression.
Yeah, that happens to all artists. I mean, she's not the first artist to have their catalog sold. Hello. Yeah. Like, that's the thing, though, is it's like, again, if you are working for another company, you don't own your art.
That's
or
horrible.
Or your talent. They own it.
Yeah,
they can do whatever they want.
Good.
They can edit you to look however they want. They can put you in whatever position they are, because, or whatever, you know, whatever they want to happen is going to happen. However they want you to be perceived, even if it's not how you want to be perceived, they will have you do it. They will have you do things just for PR, just to promote the movie, or just to promote your film, or, you know, or your album, or whatever it is. And, you know, there's no, again, like, it's just about money and power, right? Like, that's kind of what we just keep coming back to, is that, yeah, it's just kind of like anything at the expense of more money and more power. And ultimately, a lot of the times, that's at the expense of the people making them
exploitation.
The power and the money.
We live in a world that is of exploitation, and
And
it's
it's
exploitation of different groups of people, of the environment, of talent, of everything. We live in a world that's based off of exploitation. That's what it is. That's all this whole system is built off of. And you and me, moving forward, like, this is my actual final thought, that moving forward, we have to make sure that we are not exploited.
Yeah, be independent artists.
And that is exactly what all of these artists that I've been listening to have been saying, is that you have to be very firm with yourself of what you're going to accept, of how much money you're going to expect for yourself, that
Don't
you know how much your talent
is
worth.
Of excitement and
that's exactly it.
Like, this is my big
Let me sign this contract.
Yeah, like, no, that could be the worst thing they ever do.
That's exactly what we've learned.
Like, that could ruin your career.
Amen.
Signing a contract like that.
And your life, because you don't know what type of trauma that is going to bring forward.
Exactly.
You don't know who you're working for.
Because obviously, take in mind too, it's like, people are finally getting exposed, but like the vast majority of people have still not been exposed.
Of course not. They're all hiding in the shadows.
Exactly. The problem,
and putting P. Diddy in the front of just
the scapegoat.
Just put him in the front of the line.
I mean, I just think that you know, art is such an important part of obviously being human and of our societies, and has been for centuries. But unfortunately, the way that they have created this industry around it is very traumatizing and manipulative, and if anything, kills that creative energy within people a lot of the times, I think.
And it discourages us. It discourages people.
It's like even the super successful celebrities that have like so much money and success, it's just kind of like, again, because you are working for these groups, it's like, you know, it's the reason that so many people are up in arms, that so many people won't talk about the important things going on in the world right now, because guess what? They need you to, again, be the image that they want you to be. Right?
And you're like, you signed a contract that said you can't speak about these million subjects.
So basically, it's like, you will allow us to use you to continue to distract people and create, like, you know, problematic or harmful narratives in exchange for this matching.
Or just distractions. Like, just complete distractions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, we've talked about MK Ultra on this channel before, or like, you know, in our previous podcasts of like manipulation and specifically putting out certain, you know, pieces of media to create public perceptions about things, or, you know, put ideas out there into the public, or distractions from what's really going on. And so I'm like, bruh, guess what? If I'm not signed to your shit, I can talk about whatever I want, and I can even make art about it, and you can't tell me what the fuck to do.
You know what? Amen.
Like,
okay,
period.
Marissa, this is
and I'll still have my mansion, but I'll also have my dignity.
Amen. And I think that this episode is like me and Marissa's promise, and we've already promised each other about this stuff, and we've already had this conversation before, but I think that putting these thoughts out there and actually exploring this with you all, I hope that maybe if there is a creative person that's listening to this, and there is a younger person who's listening to this who has thought about getting into any industry like this, I hope that we did bring up some points to you, because it is about getting specific. You know, if there's one thing that we've learned about law of attraction, is that you do have to be very specific. You have to narrow down exactly what you want and what you're expecting.
Any possibility is possible. That's the thing about our lovely universe, our lovely world.
So instead of saying,
you
like,
can have your ideal situation. You don't have to settle for the first opportunity, or, you know, the easiest road even, or whatever it is. And it can still be easy, but it's like, do not doubt your personal power. Don't give it away to somebody else.
You don't have to sleep your way to the top. You don't have to do all of these things that people say are the only way to get there. That is not true. Not in this day and age, honey. But anyway, all right, let's close this up. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Yes. I liked having this conversation.
It was, I think it's very relevant, obviously.
And refreshing, I think, to just say this out loud, honestly.
I feel like not enough people talk about this. And I think that it's like very obvious that this is happening again, like I said, because, I mean, we see, you know, the rise of this, you know, like, I guess influencer. Maybe that's like not the greatest word. I know people have mixed feelings about that word.
That's the word. It's the word.
Yeah, you're right. Whatever. It's the word. But content creator, shall I say.
Even that is also annoying to some people.
The rise of content creator, influencer types, it's like, you know, I think that Hollywood quickly picked up that these people are celebrities are in their own right, and that the day of the traditional celebrity is over. And so it's like, because of that, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. If I was wanting to be a musician, it's like, don't go running to those record labels. put a cover every day on TikTok. You know what I mean? Like, put yourself out there to the public directly. Don't have them filter. You don't have to go through them to do that. You know what I mean?
Earn your own money and
There's
produce
even actors
your own
on
first
TikTok.
projects.
There's even like people who do acting on TikTok.
Everything. Just earn your own money in a dignified way and do whatever you want to do with the money that you can make.
For your soul.
Yes, at the time, do the projects
and
that you can handle.
And aligns with your morals.
Yeah, and don't just just do not just sign a contract, and do not sign a contract without having a lawyer look through it, without actually reading it. Because really, truly, I mean, we've learned from like Kesha, from Taylor Swift, from all these people of our generation, the people that we grew up watching, the people who we grew up listening to, that is a mistake. Like, you get your fame, you get your number one hit, you get your number one album, but then you get life of trauma. Yeah, a life of trauma and legal issues and battles and just like frustration.
And a career that is like, it's like, like Kesha, for example. It's like she sues Dr. Luke, her producer, for like all of these, abuses that he, allegedly did to her. And she couldn't make music for like 6 years.
Yeah, she had to just completely.
Because she was in contract with him.
Yeah, that's horrible.
And so it's like, hello, that's not worth it. Like,
no, it's not.
No, like, just, I think, that's kind of like the lesson. It's just like,
hold off, think about things.
Yes, and if you can be your own boss, that's always the better option.
And consult somebody, like, consult a professional. Like, do not just go into something, how Marissa's saying, like, and this is like us speaking to ourselves. What if we get an offer for this deal? What if we get an offer for this podcast? Are we, like, of course we're going to be excited, but it's like, once again, you have to make sure you know what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we're going through all the kinks, that we know we know who we're working for is not some super sketchy thing, and that the money is not coming from, like, I know this is dramatic, but like blood diamonds or something.
No, literally. I mean, 100%. And not even just blood diamonds, but also it's like literal, like, just evil things. Like, truly, just evil things. And I don't know. Like I said, I look forward to the day that hopefully, you and I can have our own production studio. And even if Spotify offers us a deal to be exclusive on Spotify, they don't own our production. You know what I mean?
Like, we would work something out with them where we word it in a way where it's like,
you can have our content for your platform.
Yes.
It's like, and I think that's, again, what a lot of people are doing now, because you can do the same things. It's like, you can produce a show through your own production company and then
release
sell
it on those platforms.
To streaming platforms. Exactly. And so it's like, it's still able to get out to people, right? And again, like, put your stuff on Spotify, your music or whatever, everyone can listen to it. It's the exact same thing that the freaking record labels do.
No,
you know
it's
what I
true.
mean? Like, and you don't need to go and do a press tour. You know what I mean? And you could still, just from doing TikToks, putting yourself out there. Like, I think that it's more about engaging with your actual audience. You know what I mean? Nowadays, like, that is so much more valuable than anything else.
Yeah, one last actual thought. I remember watching this video. This must have been back in 2008 when I saw Katy Perry getting signed to her record label. And I remember this moment so vividly, and she was so excited, and she was like in this like swivel, like circular desk chair, and it was like it was such a dramatic moment for her, and it's like, that's the case with so many people, and it's like, now that we've seen how things have played out, and that we've seen, like, once again, like, I'm 28, I've been paying attention to the entertainment industry for quite some time, and I just don't care for it. I just really don't care for it. I don't want to have a moment like that. With acting, sure, signing to an amazing acting agent, somebody who really wants to help me, sure, yeah. But with a music label, honestly, I will need to find a very specific music label, a very specific indie, small, owned, like, proven, amazing record label where I have known the people, where I speak to the people who work for them. Like, I'm never just gonna just sign with Universal like that. Like, that's crazy to me to even think about that now.
Yeah, but that's the dream. Anyway. It's the same with acting, though. TLDR, if you are an artist, pursue your art and make the art the focus. And make sure that you are feeling good creating the art, and know that you do not need the validation of anyone else to be successful or to have your dreams realized. And be careful. Just be careful, you know?
Cuídense,
You don't want to
mijitos.
be one of those documentaries. That's all I'm going to say.
No, I do not. And I don't want my kids to ever be there either.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, alrighty.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you guys.
Hope you had fun today on
Andy
and Lonnie. We'll see you next time.
The podcast. I hope you guys found this conversation insightful.
I hope so too.
I liked having it.
Yeah, it was good. Okay,
Alrighty.
we'll see you guys next time.
Good night, good day, good morning. Bye, ciao.